Although originally intended to represent a crippled caddisfly, Mercer's Missing Link does a remarkable job of imitating a variety of insect species. It's considered by many anglers to be a secret weapon that produces when nothing else will. Here, author, fly tyer, and blogger Matt Grobert is going to tie one on a size 14 TMC 100 dry fly hook. For thread, Matt's using his favorite olive 6/0 Danville. Start your thread about a quarter of the way down the hook shank and take wraps rearward before snipping or breaking off the tag. Cut a single strand of pearl Krystal Flash free from the hank and secure one end to the near side of the hook with nice, even wraps of tying thread. Continue taking touching wraps all the way back and down a short ways into the hook bend. Really try to keep these wraps smooth and touching. Give your bobbin a quick counterclockwise spin to flatten the thread, and then begin making wraps up the hook shank to form a thin, uniform abdomen for the fly. Get hold of the Krystal Flash and make open spiral wraps up the hook shank over top of the thread base to give the fly segmentation and a bit of shimmer. When you reach the tying thread, secure the flash with a few tight turns. Then with the tips of your tying scissors, snip the excess off close. To increase durability, a light coating of head cement, Sally Hansen's, or thin UV resin applied to the wraps works wonders. While the adhesive dries, pinch just a small amount of Peacock-color dubbing, here SLF Prism, and build a short thin dubbing noodle on your tying thread. Take wraps to form a tight little sphere that will act as the thorax and help to split the fly's spent wings. To make those spent wings, Matt uses Midge Gray straight Z-lon. After cutting a 2-inch or so segment free from the hank, separate that segment into 2 equal clumps, which is enough to make 2 flies. Corral the fibers of one clump and slip it underneath your tying thread so its midpoint rests on the top of the hook shank. Take thread wraps to secure it in this position and pull the far side of the clump back and down as you wrap to form one of the spent wings. Pull the near side of the clump down and back, and then take thread wraps over top to hold it in that position. Now here's a cool little trick. First, Matt spins his bobbin clockwise to lightly cord up the thread, and then takes thread wraps over top of the spent wing tie-in to create a small flat landing area for the base of the upper wing. The merits of doing this will become obvious shortly. Although often tied with light dun hackle, here Matt's going to use an appropriately sized Cree. To prep the hackle, he breaks off the lower webby part of the stem and then strips a few fibers from both sides. Place the stem against the underside of the hook shank and take thread wraps to secure it. End with your tying thread at the front edge of the dubbing ball. For the fly's upper wing, snip a 1/4 pencil diameter of bleached elk hair free from the hide. Pull out the shorter hairs and fluffy stuff from the butts. Then place the hair in your stacker tips first. Give the clump a good stacking to align the tips, and then get hold of them in your left hand and pass the clump to your right. Measure so the wing extends to the back edge of the hook bend, and then with a couple of pinch wraps, secure the hair to that flat landing pad mentioned earlier. With the elk hair in place, lift the butt ends up and take a few wraps around just the hook shank to prop them up and keep the wing from spinning around the hook. Lift the butts and wing tips up just a little bit to create some space in which to wrap the hackle. As you can see, Matt's using counterclockwise wraps, which will allow him to tie off the hackle tip securely behind the hook eye. Once you have the hackle secured, use the thumb and index finger of your left hand to pull everything up and back and expose the eye. Then take a few more thread wraps right behind the eye. Top these with a 4 or 5 turn whip finish, then snip or cut your tying thread free. Use the very tips of your tying scissors to snip out any errant or trap fibers, and then cut the excess hackle tip off close. Separate the elk hair butts from the upper wing and snip them off to leave a small yet floaty head on the fly. Finally, draw the spent wings back and using the rear edge of the hook bend as a guide, cut them off square. When viewed from above or below, the spent wings should have a nice angular orientation. The missing link, of course, can be tied in other colors and sizes. And while at first blush it may seem a little complicated to tie, it really isn't, and the results are well worth the effort.